in a bind. They were valued for their ostensibly innate sense of what women want, but resented validating such an essentialist mindset. Frances Mall, a copywriter at the J. Walter Thompson Agency and an organizer of the New York State Suffrage Party, urged her colleagues not to consider women an amorphous blob of suggestible humanity and instead keep in mind the suffrage slogan, "Women are people." It worked. As of 1918, J. Walter Thompson's women's editorial department was responsible for more than half the agency's business. But while "women are people" seemed like a common-sense strategy, it was at odds with a growing mass-market culture whose profit motive not only emphasized gender divides, but codified them, with manufacturers, retailers, advertisers, and magazine publishers all invested in establishing two discrete but reliable groups of consumers, men and white women. In fact, it was the women ignored by this sector who built some of the era's most successful businesses with women as people in mind. Entrepreneurs like Madam C.J. Walker and Annie Turnbow Malone, for instance, both became pioneers of the direct sales model in creating and selling products for black women's hair. Rather than structure their almost instantly successful businesses as top-down profit maximizers, they instead constructed them as sites of training, education, community building, and philanthropy. The sweet smoke, smells, and sweaters of freedom. Cigarettes were one of the first products that allowed the commercial realm to align itself, in market potential, if not political commitment, to emerging women's movements. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, smoking was considered such an unseemly activity for women that they were often explicitly prohibited from doing so in public. So it made sense that the American Tobacco Company saw capturing this emerging market as akin to opening a gold mine right in our front yard. ATC deftly exploited the first wave of feminism when it hired Edward Bernays, now considered the father of public relations, to craft campaigns that would get more women smoking and buying cigarettes. Bernays initially appealed to women's vanity by proposing cigarettes as slimming aids. "Reach for a Lucky instead of a Sweet," urged print advertisements, but his hunch was that appealing to their growing sense of autonomy might be the real mover of product. In 1929, Bernays and ATC orchestrated a walk for equality down New York's Fifth Avenue, hiring female participants to hold aloft Lucky Strikes as torches of freedom, while encouraging bystanders to fight another sex taboo by joining them in inhaling the heady smoke of gender equality. In an early example of contrived media virility, the photos of the march caused a national sensation and, as expected, nudged the percentage of female cigarette buyers up by more than half, from 5% in 1923 to 12% post-March. Lucky Strike rivals quickly followed suit, with Philip Morris even organizing a U.S. lecture tour in which cigarette experts instructed women on the finer points of lighting up. A similar view of symbolic liberation was the basis for Maidenform's long-running Dream campaign. Devised by a female copywriter, Kitty DeLesso, and launched in 1949, it was both less wordy than suffrage-era advertising and more visually evocative. In the ads, ordinary, though exclusively white, women were granted entree to exotic places and fantastic careers via nothing but humble brasiers. "I dreamed I climbed the highest mountain in my Maidenform bra," mused the copy that accompanied a brasiered woman in a ski lift, St. Bernard dog at her side. Other dreams included boxing. "I dreamed I was a knockout," and chariot racing in ancient Rome. "I dreamed I drove them wild," as well as playing chess and going to work in an office. This had the perhaps unintentional effect of suggesting that, for such women, going to work and playing chess were activities as fantastical as going back in time to race a chariot. 4 decades later, Virginia Slims, the first cigarette explicitly marketed to young professional women, furthered Lucky Strike's legacy